What's up everyone, it's Q from Retro Q Gaming, and some kind of interesting statements were made today by the head of Monolith Software. But before we get into what they were and why I want to talk about them, is just kind of the timing. So it's currently November 30th, 2017, and tomorrow is obviously going to have the release of Xenoblade Chronicles 2 on Nintendo Switch, the latest game from the same company we just mentioned, Monolith Software. So what the CEO of Monolith Software had to say today was that he would love to see Xenoblade Chronicles X ported over to Nintendo Switch. Whether it would be a full-on remaster or just a straight port, or maybe just have a slight resolution bump or a slight frame rate bump, or even just a slightly more stable frame rate. Granted, that won't really help the overall quality of the game, but that's beside the point. So it could potentially happen, and he says he'd like to see that at some point. Now, the thing that's very interesting about that is it brings up the question I want to talk about, or not so much the question, but the topic I want to talk about. And that topic is Wii U remasters on Nintendo Switch, or as I like to call them, the games that no one knows exist. For the simple reason is when you look at so many of the games on Nintendo Switch, not Nintendo Switch, on Wii U, I keep forgetting the Wii U even existed at this point, that the name just escapes me. But when you look at the Wii U, and how many games were on there that sold exceptionally poorly, it's no surprise whatsoever that companies will want to port them onto Nintendo Switch to actually try make up the bulk of the development costs. Because let's be real, with the amount of copies sold from most games on the Wii U, they probably didn't even get their development costs back. Obviously, it's considerably cheaper to port an existing complete game than to remake it from scratch, so they could really, realistically, kind of spend a little bit more and have a real shot at getting a proper return on their initial investment. Now, we already have one or two games that have been ported over already. Look at Mario Kart 8 Deluxe. Now, that one is a little bit of a different case, for the simple reason is when you look at the sales of Mario Kart 8 on the Wii U, I almost said the Switch there, it had a huge attach rate. It had an attach rate of over 8 million copies versus the actual console, which had 13.56 million copies. Or units. Granted, that unit hardware sale is absolutely terrible, but it had over 8 million sales of a single game, making it the best-selling Wii U game there is, bar none, full stop. But when you look at other games, like let's look at what I like to call Port Ken Tournament. The game flopped on Wii U, sold about 1 million copies, and was ported over to Nintendo Switch. Because let's face it, let's be real, games that came out on Wii U, no one knows they exist. The majority of games out there no one knows exist. You could go up to someone and say, hey, did you know there's a Bayonetta 2? People will be like, what? There's a Bayonetta 2? Are you fucking serious? You mentioned a Wonderful 101 to someone, people will think you're having a stroke. If you bring up Devil's Third, people will think you're looking for a bathroom, or that you just took a wicked shite. So with the huge amount of games on the Wii U that sold exceptionally poorly, there's no surprise that people or companies want to try get a return on investment. Even if it does require just a slight extra bit of investment now, just to port it over, the public perception of the Switch, as well as the sales of the Switch, will actually lead it to a state where they could potentially make their money back. Because let's face it, even right now, November 30th, 2017, there are people out there who, 1, don't know the Wii U was a separate console, 2, don't know the Wii U even exists, or 3, have no idea about half the games on it, or any combination of the above. And I'm not surprised, there's so few reasons to even talk about Wii U ever, even from 2012 when it released, all the way up to 2017, where it was, I'm going to hesitantly use the term officially dead. Granted, it was pretty much officially dead from like 2015, but you get my point. And let me put it this way, I have 17 Wii U games. How bad is that? Technically, I only have 15 because one of them is an unopened copy of Breath of the Wild, and another one is a free copy of Splatoon I was given and have never played. So realistically, I have 15 Wii U games. But to give it the benefit of the doubt, I've got 17 Wii U games. And they're all games that you pretty much can't get anywhere else. Stuff like Mario Kart 8, at least at the time. New Super Mario Bros. U, joke's on me. Super Mario World 3D, or Super Mario 3D World. Super Smash Wii U, Nintendo Land, New Super Luigi U. So you see my point. And very few of these games, and when I say very few, I'm talking about 15 or 16, actually broke 1 million units sold in 5 years. How poor is that? Because remember, the Wii U released in 2012, ended up selling 13.5 million units. That's absolutely diabolical sales-wise. It's a complete flop, a complete failure in every single way. Nintendo have even finally, at long last, came out and admitted that the Wii U was a failure and that they handled it poorly. They mismarketed it completely, as well as several other things. Because remember, this launched in 2012, and the Wii U was the first 8th generation console, along with the Xbox One and the PS4, but it did launch a year prior to them. But it had comparable hardware to the 360 and the PS3, consoles that had launched nearly 10 years earlier. So you couple a lot of that stuff, the actual technical limitations, with Nintendo's poor handling of the whole deal, and you can see why it just completely falls apart. Because let's look at it this way. Nintendo had just come off the success of the Wii. Over 100 million units sold. They weren't exactly going up against the PS3 or the 360, consoles which have sold 80 and about 84 million units respectively. They would inevitably be going up against the PS4 and Xbox One, consoles which have sold over 70 million and roughly 30 million units respectively. And they only sold 13.56 million units. The Nintendo Switch hasn't even been out for a year yet, and it's almost overtaken that in its first year. If the sales trends continue, it will overtake it by its actual first year on the market. And just to drive it home a little bit more, do you know what the last mainstream console to sell roughly as poorly as the Wii U was? Well, we already know it's not an 8th generation console from Sony or Microsoft. We know it's not a 7th generation console from Sony, Microsoft or Nintendo. So let's look at the 6th generation of console. It's certainly not the PS2, one of the best selling consoles of all time. Was it the OG Xbox? Microsoft's first ever console? No, because that sold about 24 million units. Was it Nintendo's entry in the 6th generation, the GameCube? No, because that sold about 21 million units. So the closest comparative, most recent console to sell almost as poorly, hell, a little bit more poorly than the Wii U, was the Sega Dreamcast, which sold just over 9 million units. And we all know what happened to Sega and the hardware business after the Sega Dreamcast. That was their last console, and now they're just a third-party publisher and developer. So you can see why the console, the Nintendo Wii U, was such an epic fail and an epic flop, and why basically no one knows why any of the games exist. Or should I say, no one knows that any of, or at least the majority of the games exist. Sure, people know about Smash, Mario, Mario Kart, Mario Maker, maybe Splatoon, whatever Zelda. But that's about it. You can almost argue that the majority of games you could port over from the Wii U, most people will think they're brand new games. And did you know that the Wii U is the only Nintendo home console that doesn't have its own dedicated Zelda game? The NES has Zelda 1 and 2, the SNES has Link to the Past, the N64 has Ocarina of Time and Majora's Mask, the GameCube has Wind Waker, Twilight Princess is obviously on GameCube and Wii, but the Wii has Skyward Sword, and Wii U has Breath of the Wild, which is also on Switch. And of course, most likely, when the next Zelda game does come out, it will be Switch exclusive. There's no chance of it ever coming to the Wii, or the Wii U of course, but I'd say the next Zelda game will be before Nintendo's next home console, so it will probably be Switch exclusive. I mean, that says it all really, doesn't it? That the fact that they didn't want to put time, effort and development into quality games just to put them on the Wii U, and just the Wii U. Because they wouldn't have sold, wouldn't have been worth their time, wouldn't have been worth their money or effort. Hell, remember, there was a Star Fox game on the Wii U. How many people forget that? Granted, it was absolute shit, and the sales reflect that, as well as the press, but you see my point. So it doesn't surprise me whatsoever that companies would be looking to do this. Hell, there's already the possible, potential, slight tease of Bayonetta 1 and 2 being ported to the Switch at some point, because Platinum Games almost kind of teased it as it is. But you can see why I wanted to talk about this, and why I consider them the games that no one knows exist. So don't be surprised if we do get some of them ported over. Some of the smaller name games, even maybe some of the bigger name games. I can almost guarantee you we'll get a Mario Maker Switch. I don't think we'll see a port of the existing Smash. I think they'll just go on for a full new one. And for some reason Nintendo don't like to remaster Mario games. They'll do it for Zelda, but not Mario games. But hey, we've all seen how well the Switch is doing, how well the Switch is being handled, now that it's not being mishandled controlled by Iwata and his terrible business decisions. So we'll see how it goes. Let me know in the comments section below, what Wii U ports would you like to see remastered or ported over onto Nintendo Switch, and why? And what ones do you actually think we'll see? For now, we'll have to wait and see, but I've kind of given my thoughts on the whole situation already. Even if Xenoblade Chronicles X does come over, the Switch won't make it a better game. But there's probably many people out there who haven't played it that may potentially like it for some reason. But anyway, it's all good. Let me know all of that good stuff in the comments section below. Hit the like button, hit the subscribe button. Thank you for watching. I will see you in the rest of the videos in my channel.